Okay, so I would like to introduce myself and our speakers today. I'm gonna go ahead and just take a photo of myself here with our photo booth widget that we have. Woo! Awesome. My name is Anthony DiSpezio. I'm one of our designer advocates here at Figma, and I am joined today by Mahika, Connor, and Rob, and I'm gonna let them introduce themselves. So Mahika, pass it off to you.
Thanks so much, Anthony. Hi, everyone. I'm Mahika. I'm a PM on FigJam, and I'm so excited to be here with you today to walk you through our launches. I'm dialing in from New York. Shout out to anyone else who's also dialing in from New York. And my favorite Figma / FigJam feature is washi tape, which was also coincidentally my first launch at the company. And so if you haven't tried it out, I encourage you to do so. And I will pass it over to Connor to introduce himself.
Thanks, Mika. Thanks everyone for being here. My name's Connor. I'm another PM on FigJam. I'm calling in from Berkeley, California, very close to our office in San Francisco. My favorite feature is the high five, because sometimes there are just certain things that deserve a high five. And I will pass it over to Rob.
Hey everyone, I'm a product manager on the native team. So I look after our iPhone, Android, iPad, and desktop apps. Currently calling in from the San Francisco office, but normally based remotely on the East Coast. My favorite feature is definitely the FigJam iPad app. It's just great for like sketching out ideas for wireframing and just having some kind of fun FigJam stuff on the go. And I'll hand it back over to Anthony.
Awesome. Well, thank you all. So nice to have you on the stream with us today. Let's go ahead and get into it. So to set the stage a little bit for today, more than ever, teams are finding ways to work creatively, to work together. And we see Figma as a huge part of that as well. But sometimes ideas can go unnoticed. Either ideas aren't getting heard, or maybe ideas aren't fully understood, or maybe just don't have momentum behind them. And so the ideas aren't actioned upon. So as we've been launching new features, both for Figma and for FigJam, we've been listening to all of that great feedback and are excited to show you a host of new ways for teams to meet and collaborate, with 9 new improvements to FigJam, Figma, and to mobile as well. Now, to help us demonstrate how our new Figma and FigJam functionality can help push ideas forward, we're going to run through a little real-life brainstorming session today. And our topic is going to be Maker Week. Now, if you don't know what Maker Week is an internal hack week that we have here at Figma twice a year, where for all of the teams to get together to work on different projects, work on ideas that they've been thinking about for a while. It's an absolutely fantastic time. I've been fortunate enough to host one myself, and some past Maker Week projects have included things like dark mode, design system analytics, audio in Figma and FigJam. There is a ton of them. The list goes on and on. And so we're going to use that as today's scenario. And so we need to come up with some ideas for Maker Week. We need to come up with some ideas for these projects. And so with that, I'm going to pass things off to Mahika to start our brainstorming journey today. Mahika, take it away.
Thanks so much, Anthony. Okay, everyone, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen and walk you through how we go about brainstorming here at Figma. So first off, I'm going to go ahead and organize a meeting to brainstorm Maker Week. And where do I start? I'm going to start in my calendar, and I'm going to throw out an invite to everyone on this call so we can all start out in the same place. So I'm not sure about you guys, but here at Figma, nearly every single meeting that we run takes place in a FigJam file or a Figma file. And so a couple weeks ago, we launched this brand new feature that allows you to very easily add any FigJam board or any Figma file to a calendar invite. So if I go here and I create a new event, you'll see that there is this new Chrome extension that allows me to add a FigJam board or a Figma file. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say Maker Week Brainstorm. And I'm going to add a FigJam board because that's where we love to brainstorm. So go ahead and click this, and you can see what I can do is I can either create a new FigJam board from scratch if I'm spinning up an entirely new brainstorm, or if I've done pre-work in order to kind of like set the stage for the rest of the brainstorm, I can go and I can select from an existing FigJam file. So I'm going to go ahead and add this to the event. And then what I can do is just go ahead and save the event. And here I have it on my calendar. And when I click on my calendar invite, not only has this already been added, but there's actually a really, really quick way to go ahead and access the FigJam file or Figma file directly from the calendar invite. So gone are the days where you're kind of like really sifting through this, for this needle in a haystack inside of the description of a calendar invite. It's right here, and it's there for you to either copy or jump into. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go full screen, and I'm going to jump into this new file, which is where we are going to do our brainstorm today. And the first thing that I'm really excited to talk to you about is you may notice that we have a few new icons inside of the FigJam file. So we think about this as our meetings toolbar. Like I mentioned, we run nearly all of our meetings in the company inside of FigJam. And the first thing that I want to call out is that we have this new templates icon in the top left. And so templates are a really great way to get started inside of FigJam, because oftentimes this totally blank canvas can be kind of intimidating. And as a facilitator, I want to make sure that I'm setting the entire team up for success when we start brainstorming inside of FigJam. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on templates. And over the past half, we've made over 300 new templates inside of FigJam to help you get started. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to type in brainstorm. And I see, oh my God, 30-minute brainstorm. This is absolutely perfect for this live stream today. I'm going to go and I'm going to add this template. And what you'll see in some of our new templates is not only do we have instructions telling you how to go about the template, but we also have tips and tricks for you to get your team in. So for example, I'm running a brainstorm. What are we going to need for a brainstorm? We're going to need stickies, we're going to need stamps, and we're going to need the timer. And so, okay, we're doing this Maker Week brainstorm, and Maker Week is an entire company activity. And so what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, topic number 1 is for Figma ideas. Topic number 2 is FigJam ideas. And topic number 3 is mobile ideas. Okay, so now I want to go ahead. I want to get this brainstorm started. And I'm going to go and I'm going to introduce you to our second new feature, which is inside the timer. So we've always had a timer inside of FigJam, but it was a little bit buried. We got feedback that people often had trouble finding it. And so we've gone and we've elevated it to the top level of your file, because we think being able to run synchronous time sessions is incredibly important to being able to have a successful brainstorm or a successful meeting at large. And buried inside this timer is another new feature that I'm so pumped to share with everyone, which is we have introduced music to FigJam. So gone are the days where you're going to be brainstorming with an awkward silence with your team. We have a set of tracks here that kind of keep it fresh. And even though it's not Friday, I like to pretend it's always Friday. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select It's Friday from this menu and kick off this brainstorm. And what you'll see is the rest of the team is going to be brainstorming. We have this cute little record player here. There are a few Easter eggs inside the record player. And so I encourage you to check it out if you haven't already done so. And I'm going to turn up the volume. Can you guys hear the music? Friday. Woo! So this really helps everyone kind of get into the mood, get into the jam, get the ideas flowing. And what we see here is, oh my God, in just a 30-second brainstorm, the team has already come up with so many ideas. So you can only imagine the number of ideas that would come out of like a 10-minute brainstorm or a 15-minute brainstorm. And so now, I mean, honestly, there's a little bit of decision paralysis because there's so many ideas and we need to think about how to move these forward, right? So how do we take all of this incredible work and channel it into action? And so that leads me to our next feature, which I'm really excited to show you all, which is the third new icon in this top left meetings toolbar, which is voting in FigJam. So we've, gotten a lot of feedback about the importance of being able to take a brainstorm, make it actionable. We know that people were already, kind of voting ad hoc with stamps inside of a FigJam file, with some widgets. However, we thought that it was really, really important to make a very dedicated voting surface and also to be able to allow people to vote without bias. So I shouldn't be able to see what Anthony's voting on, what Rob or Connor are voting on. It should be totally anonymous. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to allocate 2 votes to everyone so that everyone can go ahead and vote on their favorite idea. And I'm going to kick off this vote. And what you can see here is that we really leaned into the magic of the stamp wheel, because we've heard from so many people that they love the personality of the stamp wheel. It's much more exciting than dot voting. And so we're going to go ahead and I'm going to go and see, okay, what do I want to vote for? And I'm like, okay, Figma TV, that sounds like a sick idea. And you'll notice that as I place my votes down, we have these special voting stamps. You can distinguish them from regular stamps because they have this little star going on. And also, I can't see what anyone else is voting on. So I'm going, and I'm like, oh my God, spell check. Boy, do I need spell check. That's definitely going to win my second vote. And I see, okay, 6 people have voted. Everyone in the file has voted. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to end this session. And now you can see we have this little leaderboard over here, and spell check has absolutely won, absolutely crushed it. Sounds like this is going to be the top thing we invest in during Maker Week. But of course, there are also so many other ideas that I'm pumped about. Observation mode between files, synced sections, more cats, can never have too many cats. I hope you've all taken advantage of our cat stickers. They're kind of awesome. And so over here, you can kind of see we give this little medal to the idea that wins. And one thing to call out is here we did a sticky based voting session, but you can also vote on images, on shapes, on code blocks, and more. And it's also really kind of like a pro tip to pair voting with the timer and with music, so that even as people are voting and sifting through their ideas, they're able to get into a jam with the team. And with that being said, I'm really excited to pass it over to Connor to chat about how we take these votes and turn them into a plan.
Thanks, Mika, for leading the brainstorm and the voting. So one of the things that we often kind of struggle with at this point is having a bunch of really good ideas with a little bit of a messy display. Tables are like a really familiar artifact for people to be able to organize some of this content. And we've seen people hack together tables a bunch of really creative ways within Figma and FigJam. But we've introduced tables themselves, so people have to spend less time kind of getting all finicky with, lining everything up properly and just getting good ideas down. So you'll notice that we've added to the toolbar an actual tables button, and I'm going to go ahead and create a table here for us to organize a little bit of these voting results. So I'm going to create this table and add a couple of rows and columns, and then we can start to go ahead and organize some of these ideas. So everyone's going to jump in and start filling these out. I'm going to create a header row here, and in doing so, show off another feature that we've added to be able to add a little bit more kind of creativity to text within Figma. We've added some really quick markdown triggers so people can be more efficient in being more expressive with their text. So I'm going to create this top row here and come up with, let's see, idea and votes and impact. And while I'm doing this, everybody's going to throw in some ideas and get this table organized. I'm going to add some colors up here and just get this table looking nice and pretty. So we have spell check, we have synced sections, definitely cats, Figma TV, and we can all start to fill these out. And these tables do support co-editing with all of the multiplayer aspects of this and everything else. And then now that we've got our impacts and everything estimated, we are ready to move on to the next step of this brainstorm. I think it's very clear that spell check is kind of the winner here. Let's go ahead and move that up to the top. And this is definitely our winner. And with that, I'm going to pass it back over to Mahika to show what we can do for the next step.
All righty. So now we have our prioritized list of features that we want to build. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put on my designer cap and move on over to Figma, where we're going to take these ideas and turn them into a reality. So a few months ago, you may have noticed we launched sections inside of FigJam. This was a really exciting launch because it meant that we were able to really take the amazing goodness that comes out of a generative brainstorm session or a generative meeting, product review, design crit, etc., and really create structure and organization on the canvas. So here you can kind of see we've been organizing our FigJam board with sections. What's new now is that not only can you take a section from FigJam and copy paste it directly into Figma as such, but you can also go ahead and, as of today, make sections of your own inside of Figma. We've heard a lot that, Figma files are often also really hard to organize. If I'm a designer, I have my PM coming in, my engineers coming in, my entire team of collaborators coming in to, give feedback on and riff on designs. And it's really important that they're able to come in and make sense of the canvas. And so let's say I want to go ahead. I'm the designer, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to kind of drum up some mocks for the top features here. So let's say I want to go ahead and I want to make some frames for spell check. I'm going to go ahead and do this on an iPad mini because, FigJam iPad, awesome. So I'm going to go ahead, and this is going to be my spell check mocks. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do some observation mode mocks. And the third one that I'm going to do is Figma dance off. Wow, what an idea. We should definitely get that going during Maker Week. And, it's very rare that one mock does the trick. It's more often than not that I'm going to have a series of, flows and mocks around spell check, a series of wireframes around observation mode, and dance off. Let's get that going. It's going to be sick. And here I have this like kind of chaotic file, right? How does someone come in and make sense of this? This is where sections come in. You can go ahead and add it from this menu. You can also just hit Shift S. We have this shortcut going. And I can go ahead and I can say like, okay, this is my spell check section. This is my observation mode section. And this is my dance off section. And what you can do now is you can drag these sections anywhere. All the frames stay intact. You can also change the colors of the sections. So I can go ahead and I can make this observation mode section red. I can make the dance section blue, for example. And now when any collaborator comes into this file, it's really easy for them to kind of understand how to navigate it and how to go about really like perusing the file. So we're really excited to throw this into the world today. We also have some incredibly special prototyping synergies with sections, which is that now we are unlocking the ability for you to make stateful prototypes inside of Figma. What that basically means is like if I have a tab that's pointing at a series of flows that belong in that tab, instead of connecting the tab individually to each frame, I can go ahead and just connect it to the section at large. And that way my prototype will remember what was the last frame that section was on. And so I can go ahead and basically make these like very stateful prototypes that really mimic the way that an actual app would work as opposed to what we have today. So really excited about that. And so now I have these mocks. I want to invite in my collaborators. So Rob is my collaborator. I want to get his take on my mocks. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit C and comment. And I'm going to say, Rob, not Gabriel. Rob, what do you think of these spell check mocks? Pretty sick, right? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to comment this for Rob, and I'm going to hand it over to Rob so he can chat a little bit about how he's going to go ahead and interact with these files.
Amazing. Can everyone see my screen? Yes, we can. Okay, so as Mahika just did, she just mentioned me in a comment, which now means I can get push notifications. And this is one of our first features that have just launched on our mobile apps and is also coming to our desktop apps. You can try it out today in the desktop beta. So from the push notification, I can simply just tap into this and it will open up the file that Mahika has been collaborating in. I can see her comment and I can reply to it and say like, these look great. I can also quickly react to a comment as well. So if I just want to leave a very easy thumbs up, I can just long press, leave a little thumbs up, and you can see it gives her that reaction very quickly. So as you can see, I can see the file on my phone now. I can pan around. I can see everything else that's going on. And if there's nothing else to kind of collaborate in here, nothing else to leave comments in, I can then jump back. And we now have the activity feed, which is now on our mobile app. So from here, I can see everything that's been happening in other files. I can see that Nick, one of our designers, has left some feedback here. So I can just tap this and jump straight into a file. And this will allow me to see all his comment pins. It will auto recenter on the one I just tapped. And I can then, again, leave another reaction here. I can view all his other pins on the file. I can zoom in, and again, I can reply to him directly. And then also, if I see something that I want to leave new feedback on, so say over here, I'm not quite sure about the color of this button, I can simply just long press, it drops a pin, and I can be like, not sure about the color. And then what I can do is just mention in Nick directly. So I can then send a message to him, and then he'll now get a push notification on his desktop or his mobile device to carry on with that. So this basically allows people who collaborate with designers or designers who want to be able to give and leave feedback on the go to keep in touch with their teammates no matter where they are and stay in the loop with everything that's happening in their Figma files. And these are available in the mobile apps today, and you can grab the desktop beta to get push notifications later today. And I'll hand it back over to Anthony.
Amazing. Thank you all so much. This is just incredible. I don't know if anyone was watching the chat. I think everyone's jaws are on the floor now with just some of those new features are really powerful. We're going to have so much more content around these features too as well. So designer advocates, product education team, we'll be doing more things to show you some of those real details. I'm really excited for the grouped prototypes using sections and having state history in different parts of your app and things like that. So cannot wait to show you more on that front. So with that, let's go ahead and move over to our Q&A. We have a lot of questions that have come in, and we've got some great time right now to make sure that we can get through these questions. We're going to start with some of them that came in through the Q&A that we've added here over to the chat, and then we'll head back over to the Q&A in just a second as well. So with that, let's start with our first question here. Can people unvote during the voting period if they've made a mistake? Great question.
Yeah, that is an awesome question. You can unvote. You can also move your vote from one object to another. So you can unvote by either hitting undo or by selecting your vote and deleting it from the canvas.
Great. Awesome. Next question here, moving a little bit on to sections for a minute here. Do the sections show in presentation mode, or is it only still individual frames?
So in presentation mode, you will still just see frames. And so sections are basically a way to organize your frames as opposed to interfere with the frames.
Got it. That makes sense. And then I think the next question, the question just around like sort of, will these be treated the same with libraries? So like if you wrap a bunch of frames in a section, are there going to be any changes to the architecture of your libraries or things like that? So for those who don't know, if you have main components on your canvas, by putting those inside of a frame today, it'll actually change the grouping and the ordering of how those appear in team libraries and things like that. So the question here is, will sections have any impact on that?
Sections will not be impacting that.
Got it. So if you are using frame grouping, you can continue to do that as you were. You can wrap things in sections. You're not going to impact any of your existing structures. You won't have any name changes or path changes to your main components.
Exactly.
So, awesome. Very cool. Do we support auto layout in the sections? So basically, can you use auto layout in a section to, I'm guessing, organize your frames inside of that as well?
We do not currently have auto layout inside of sections, but we do think it is something that would be really exciting for the future. So definitely hear you on that one.
Awesome feedback. Yeah, thank you. Is there a way to show who voted for what if you don't need it to be anonymous? Can you see the votes in real time, or is it not until you've completed the voting?
You can, currently you can only see who voted for what once the voting session has been ended. And so if you want to kind of like go ahead and have not anonymous voting, I would recommend that you use like the regular stamp tool. But generally, we've heard a lot of feedback that it's really important to eliminate bias when voting, and that people are not kind of like influenced what other people on their team or other people in their group are doing, which is why we've biased towards unbiased voting.
That's a great point to mention too as well, which is that you haven't lost any of the existing functionality here. So you can still continue to, if you've got workflows that are in place, if you already have teams that are working and there's a voting structure that's working for you, that's going to continue to work as it is. And then this is just another way to do more advanced anonymous voting with a little bit better UI experience here as well for tallying. So cool. Can we paste images into the tables? Great question.
So right now, all of the table rows and columns are like resizable to whatever size you need them to be. So there's plenty of room to go stick a photo on top. It won't be actually parented to the table at this point, but we're definitely exploring adding some of that functionality. But you can absolutely have a table be set up and throw all sorts of things on top of it.
Awesome. Very cool. A couple more questions here, and then I'm going to hop over to more of the Q&A that we have as well. Thank you for the folks helping to add in some questions here. Saw that sections can be copied from FigJam to Figma. Can they be copied in the other direction as well?
Yes. Sections are completely interoperable between FigJam and Figma. You can go ahead and take them from FigJam to Figma, as well as from Figma to FigJam. This is a really exciting moment for our team and honestly for the company, because it's the first time that we released a primitive in both Figma and FigJam. And so we were really excited about this internally. A lot of really interesting technical challenges, design challenges, et cetera, in terms of like, what is the identity of each product and what does it mean to have a cross-product primitive? But yes, you can take them in both directions.
Great. Yeah, that's great to know. As some of you may have experienced too as well. There's a handful of other features that maybe not native in both environments, but some of that interoperability between Figma and FigJam is really important to us because that's where we see a lot of really powerful things like copying frames with auto layout into FigJam. The auto layout is going to continue to work as expected. Copying connectors back into Figma, you'll still have access to those features as well. So that's one of the real advantages of having these both be built on similar foundations, is that we can have that sort of shared language between the two tools as well. Oh, this is an interesting one. Can you give negative feedbacks with the stamp? So I know that there's a thumbs down stamp. What happens when you use that?
So right now, each stamp kind of behaves the same. And so the reason is that we didn't want people to kind of like mentally have to calculate in their head what is a positive versus a neutral versus a negative stamp. And also we thought that the negative stamp kind of had its own purpose. So like if you're voting for like least favorite thing, you may want to use the thumbs down instead of the heart or the star or the face stamp. And so as of now, the thumbs down stamp counts the same as any other stamp.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense, right? Because you may not know what the intention was there of like maybe a downvote was actually something that you wanted to say positively too as well. So we're just not insinuating there. Makes a lot of sense. Cool. I'm gonna go grab from our Q&A here that we have over here too as well. When commenting on sections, will it pin to the section in the same way that commenting on other types of objects will, or is it more like pinning, like leaving a comment on the canvas directly? How does that work?
It should kind of like stay tied to the section the same way that it would stay tied to a frame.
Yeah, so if you have a new section like this and we add a little comment here, cats, always cats, never enough cats. As you move the section around, you're going to notice that that comment is actually staying pinned to that section as well. Very cool. Can prototyping links link across sections? So probably this is on the Figma side of thing where we have pages. Can the prototyping links link across pages, or is it still limited to the single page within a prototype? And I think
oh, sorry,
yeah.
Go for it, Anthony.
I was gonna say, I think I can answer this one too as well, which is this is the ask for links to different pages within Figma by maybe using a section name or something like that. It's still gonna be limited within the single page that you are in. However, the new behavior is that you can actually link to the section itself. By doing that, what's gonna happen is whatever part of that prototype that section was in, it will actually preserve that particular prototyping page. Well, we're going to show some more examples of this. We'll have some tweets out too as well. We're going to do a bit more. The designer advocates have some really fun stuff that we want to show off. But basically, it's kind of like if you have multiple parts of your application, if you put them into sections, you can actually control like separate history stacks in that sense, so that when you move to different parts of the app, you'll be able to go back to those other sections. That'll only happen if you're linking directly to the prototyping connections of a section. So it's okay to safely use sections in your old files today because there won't be any prototyping links to them. So if you want to go in and add new sections to your old files, you're not going to drastically impact the existing prototyping connections today. You'd have to create new connections to do that. So it's backwards compatible in that sense as well. Cool. All right. And that was kind of, there was a lot of questions around, can we link to a section? So that would be like linking to it with a prototyping connection, but you can also link to a section, and it does have a unique node ID. So if you are copying a URL, if you are sharing something, it will work like selecting any other object. When you go to share that, it'll take you right to that object, so that if that's the thing you're trying to get feedback on, or if that's the area that you want to go to, you'll be able to do that as well. Great. Cool. Looks like we've got lots of questions here on auto layout, a few other ones too. Give me a second. Y'all have lots of great questions, so it takes a minute to get through all of these too as well. Here's a question. Can we export sections?
Yes, you can. You can export like any object pretty much. So that will behave as normal. I think that one thing to note is that the titles don't necessarily get preserved on export. And so if something's really important for you to keep, I would put it like inside the section.
Awesome. Very cool. Yeah. And so for those who aren't aware, like we have export menus. There's a lot of different ways that you can export. Figma has its own special export in the design panel that you can access. Also, at any time, you can generally right click on things and you're going to find ways to quickly export, either copy to your clipboards or export selections. So it doesn't even, it could be multiple sections that you have selected. It could be other types of things. So there's lots of stuff that you can do here with your sections as well, and export capabilities throughout Figma. Switching a little bit to music in FigJam, which is absolutely one of my favorites. I'll make sure that we can show a little bit more of that too at the end for folks who might have missed it or had audio issues at the beginning. Where does the music come from? Is that our own music? Is it a stream? Can I link to my Spotify? How's that working today?
Yeah, that is a great question. So right now we basically partnered with a music agency in order to make tracks that were directly kind of like built for FigJam. And you'll see that we have currently 4 different moods of music inside of FigJam. We have acoustic ambiance, we have lo-fi hip hop, we have It's Friday, and we have button smash. So those are the 4. Each of those moods is composed of 6 different tracks. So that basically anytime you start one of those moods, I'm sorry about the background noise. Anytime you start one of those moods, you basically get randomly selected onto a track, and it's like you're basically listening to a playlist. So that way you're able to basically like pick your mood, but ideally like not get bored of the same tracks over and over again, because whenever you hit play, you're always going to get something a little bit different. So you can kind of think about it as akin to tuning into a radio station. In terms of whether you'll be able to connect your own music to this, that is not currently an option, though it is something that we're investigating for the future. The reason that we prioritized this initial approach over, for example, like a Spotify integration or something like that, is because this ensures that like if I'm facilitating a meeting and I go and I hit play, anyone can basically hear the music right from the get-go, versus otherwise, everyone would have to connect their account. Some people may not have access to Spotify, etc. And so we thought it was like really important that everyone basically had very, very easy access to the music.
That makes a lot of sense. And so this is also just from sort of a licensing perspective and stuff, there's nothing really to worry about for anyone if they want to be using this, if they're using it in sessions or their own live streams, they're all good to go on that front? Awesome. Very cool. We had a good question here just around who are these features available? Are these available of the things that we showed today? All the plans that we have, so free all the way up to enterprise. How does that work?
Yeah, great question. Maybe each of us can speak in turn to the various features. So going in order, basically, we have the Google Calendar integration, which is a public launch that is open to everyone. If you haven't already installed it, I highly recommend doing so. It's a big quality of life improvement. For the new features inside of FigJam, the templates are available to absolutely everyone. Music inside of Timer is sort of a freemium model. So we have a single track that's available to everyone on free. And then to unlock the rest of the tracks, you basically need to upgrade to Pro Plus. And then voting, because it is such a like team-centric feature, it's not as much of a single player feature. Voting is effectively gated to Pro Plus. And then sections in Figma, including copying and pasting between Figma and FigJam, is open to everyone. And I can pass it to Connor to talk about some of the others.
Yeah, so all of the text formatting improvements and markdown support that we've made is going to be available across all plans, as will tables when they launch later this year. So tables was a bit of a preview today, but you can be looking out for that in a few weeks.
Very cool. And Rob, I'm assuming we get comments. I'll take that as a yes. Looking for his mute button there.
Yes.
Awesome. Very cool. Yeah. So it sounds like just a couple of things on the extra features that we have for around voting and music. Otherwise, you're going to have these across all plans. As hopefully everyone is aware, free plan is staying free. EDU plans are staying free as well. So not going to see any changes there in that sense. Awesome. So we had a few more questions here that I want to get. One suggestion too as well, we should add the Jeopardy countdown music. That was a great idea. I agree. Maybe we can somehow get a licensed version of that or something that we can add. So diving a little bit more into the sections versus frames, could you explain like what would be the benefit of using a section versus just using a frame? Like what's the use case there?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So the first benefit is, okay, so one is with regards to prototyping. So I'm not sure how many of you have tried this, but to your point, we have seen people kind of like wrap frames in other frames. And if you try and prototype in this mode, it basically breaks because the prototype will jump to the highest level of frame rather than the like embedded frames, because frames are kind of, from a prototyping logic perspective, like a destination. And so if you want to go ahead and organize your canvas with frames, you can't really use prototyping. And we think it's really important to not be able to just do like static mock design inside of Figma, but also extend to prototyping. And so that's one big change. The second is just like when it comes to basic organization on the canvas, you'll notice that like frame titles kind of hide themselves. We think about frames as very like content first objects. And so it's much more about like what's inside the frame than like what the frame is like grouping, versus with sections, you'll notice that the titles are a lot more prominent and they basically scale as you zoom in and out, which means that you're much more likely able to kind of like lay out your file or wireframe at a high level direction or a high level zoom level without going like too nitty gritty. So you're basically able to consume the file at like multiple different altitudes without like looking into the kind of like grayed out frame title that exists. The third thing is that this is not necessarily launching today, but in the future, we plan to basically make navigational improvements inside of the file based off of sections as well. So make it really, really easy for you to traverse from section to section and basically consume a file in that way, versus frames often get like very buried inside of a layers panel, especially because, if you think about frames, not only are they kind of the top level grouping of like an iPhone mock, for example, but people also use them for like auto layout, like different like button configurations and things like that. And so sections are just meant to be like a higher level navigational object. And so hopefully that's like a little bit clarifying. The last thing that I'll just call out is that like we don't cut off objects at the end of sections the way that we do for frames. So it's less for like UI organization and more for like file level organization.
Yeah, that's a great point there too. If you're still trying to do things that have visual impact in your prototypes and in your designs and things like that, you're going to want to continue to use frames where you're going to have clip content, auto layout, grid layouts, all of those sorts of cosmetic and visual settings, versus frames are, as Miko was saying, more of a mental, an organizational construct in that sense, and also a prototyping construct. So hopefully, I'm really excited to see all of the improvements there. Yeah, go ahead.
The last thing to call out, since so many people were asking about copy paste between Figma and FigJam, is you may have noticed if you copy and paste a frame from Figma to FigJam, the content basically gets locked. And that's because we basically treat frames as these like UI elements. So if you bring a frame from Figma into FigJam, like you won't be able to move anything, versus the content inside of a section stays kind of like free flowing.
That's great. That's a huge thing too, especially when you're copying it back from, you can then reorder your frames. You can do all types of things like that if you copied a whole section of them over. Awesome, very cool. Saw some great feedback here too as well. I love everyone's another reason to not use groups. There are still some good reasons to use groups. If I would check out some of our YouTube channels, there are some pretty interesting use cases. Similar, I think sections is probably similar, closer to groups than it is to frames, in the sense that these are organizational tools. These are sort of ways to structure things versus things to create visual elements or UI, pieces of UI and things like that, part of your design. Great. Ooh, looks like we've got lots of questions that are coming in here too as well. Hold on, just catching up with everyone. Thank you all for asking such great questions. This is awesome. Can you undo votes quickly on the voting tool? Is there a way to reset it or undo your votes?
Yeah, if you want to undo your own personal votes, you can just hit Command Z, or you can go ahead and you can like delete your votes. And if you want to kind of remove everyone's votes, you can either basically like kick off a new voting session, or you can just select and delete all the votes. They behave very similarly to stamps.
Awesome, very cool. Any recommendations for mind mapping in Figma or FigJam, auto align, drag and drop, connection groups, things like that?
Yes, that is a great question. We have a bunch of templates specifically dedicated to helping folks mind map inside of FigJam. Basically, strongly recommend using like a combination of shapes and connectors. And I would recommend either just looking up like flowchart or mind map in our templates panel. And hopefully you'll be able to find something that suits your use case.
Awesome, very cool. Okay, I think we're going to take just maybe one more question here as well. Can you tab to sections with the keyboard, or does that have anything to do with maybe some of those future nav announcements that you mentioned?
Tabbing through sections with a keyboard. So this would behave like pretty similarly to how you can like tab through frames, I believe. So if you hit tab, like you would basically like go through, it would like go through and select each section in the file. I think Anthony's demoing it right now. Yeah.
Yeah, one important note is that if you're used to using the navigation for N and Shift N to go forward and backward with frames, sections will actually be skipped in that. So that will continue to work as expected. If you were trying to navigate from frame to frame, it will go straight from the next frame. Regardless of what section it's in, it will move to the next one as well. So you'll still have that behavior working as expected, but tab will actually select the next layer in that same depth, which if it is a frame, it will get selected as well in the same behavior. Fantastic. Okay, there have been a ton of great questions. We are at the end of our live stream today. I just want to give a huge thank you to everyone for joining, everyone for asking such great questions, to our hosts and panelists for being here as well. Rob, one last question we did get was, is that background real? So I think we're going to have to see a little camera move there to show off a very interesting room at the Figma San Francisco hub, but we can share more on that later. For all of your additional questions, please head to social medias, please head to ask out to anyone that you work with and any of our Figma representatives as well. We're more than happy to help. We're so excited to share more information with you. If you have, if you want to attend future live streams, figma.com/events is the place to do that. And if you have suggestions and ideas, community@figma.com. Everything that you've seen today and most things that we build are by, our own excitement as well as the excitement of the community too as well. And so we really look forward to hearing more of your feedback. Thank you all so much. And with that, I'll play us off with a little song here while we head out. We'll do It's Friday for a Tuesday. There we go.